Hi. Hello, hello. I've had this burden on my heart for a while, to have people really read their Bibles. And the reason is I have been drastically changed by reading my Bible. And I feel like when we read the Word, we're listening to the Lord and He can connect with us and give us so much revelation. I also am astounded at how many believers don't read on a regular basis. They go to church on Sundays to be fed, but they don't feed themselves Monday through Saturday. And so, yeah, I just have this heavy burden in my heart. So I'm always, if you guys see any videos with me and my church, I will bring this up fairly often. And so while I was thinking about it, I was like, well, what can I do to practically make this happen? And I had this thought, which may not be my own. I thought to myself, what if I read a chapter a day with people? People could tune in, they could listen in, they could watch if they wanted to. What if that could be something that I could do? Then I was like, that's a lot of time commitment. And I've been vacillating back and forth. I even found a woman who actually, after I had this thought, I watched one of my favorite podcasts and he had this person on as a guest. And I was like, I have never heard of anyone doing this. I thought I had an original idea. Surprise, not so original. Someone's already out there doing it. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it because I feel like this is something that I should do. And so I am not going to start off with an easy epistle. I'm not going to start off with New Testament. I'm going to start off at the beginning, at Genesis 1 1. I will be reading from the Tree of Life Bible. This is a Bible that was put together um, spearheaded by Messianic Jewish believers, about 30 different PhDs, Christian, Messianic Jewish believers, people who know Greek, Hebrew, came together as a collective to create this Bible. They went back to the original source text. This Bible also has a lot of Hebrew words, about 100 to 150 different Hebrew words, which I love. I've realized that God has given me uniquely um, a hunger for His Word. Two, because He wired me to be a little bit nosy, I love context. I like to understand a thing. So I am currently enrolled in school, getting a BA in chaplaincy, taking classes that started off because I just wanted to understand the God of the Bible better, right? So I am bringing all of that to the table. So I will be going verse by verse, um, and you are welcome to follow along. I am going to attempt to put um, the verses on the screen afterwards. I've never done that. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so Genesis 1 1. It says Parashat Bereshit. So in um, in Jewish culture, in Judaism, they read the Torah every year and they've broken it down into what they call parshas. And they have this now as a Messianic Jewish believer, they read the Parsha, which is going to be from the Torah. They also have what would be the prophets and the writings, which includes First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, that kind of stuff. And they have that, so they'll read something from the Torah, something from the writings, and also the New Testament. So they're reading their Bible in a very sequential order. So depending where they are in the cycle of the year, you will know what part. So all believers are reading the same thing, which is pretty powerful. And I think what better way to start than to start at the very beginning. Creation in 6 days, Genesis 1 1. In the beginning, God, or Elohim, created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was chaos and waste. Okay? Darkness was on the surface of the deep, and the Ruach Elohim, that is the Spirit of God, was hovering upon the surface of the water. So, one, I want to apologize. people are working on my roof, and that's not going to stop me. And two, um, the idea that there was chaos and waste before. God stepped into a situation where there was chaos and waste. He was already hovering over the deep. And much in like our lives, God enters into space and time, into our chaos and our waste, and begins to create magical things if we let him in, right? Verse 3, then God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw that the light was good. So God distinguished the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So there was evening and morning one day. I want to say a few things here. Let there be light. God created using words. This is why God's word, the Bible, is so important for us to know. This is the only book, which you may have heard, that is living, breathing, active, sharper than any two-edged sword. I am, and I say this not in a boastful way about myself, but rather look at what God can do. I am in the New Testament right now about, early on in the New Testament. But by the end of this, in the next couple months, I will be done with my third read through of the Bible from cover to cover. That is not of my own doing. That is the Lord. And also, I just pour over his word, and God kind of illuminates certain words for me. And one of the words he illuminated in this was the idea of distinguished. As believers, we so desperately want to be different. We're so excited to be other, to be made holy, to be made righteous, right? And I think, there's a lot of people who get caught up with whether the Jews are the real Jews or the real Israelites, the original Israelites, or perhaps if it was someone else, some different race, some whatever. We all so want to be chosen, to feel chosen, right? And here we see that God distinguished light from darkness. He didn't say darkness was bad. But in order for there to be almost a definition of what it means to be one thing, you have to have it just juxtapose something else, the opposite of that. So where there was chaos, where there was darkness, he created light. And so he distinguished, he separated those things. And we see over and over again in the Bible where God separated. The reason that Israel was his chosen people, I mean, if you want to be honest, it could have been a crapshoot. It could have been any other people, right? The idea is that because he chose a nation, they were distinguished. They could look and see the differences. There was a comparison that could be drawn between how these people walked with the Lord, right, and how these people walked with their God, and what they got out of things, and how other and separate that was. And I think people get really caught up in wanting to separate themselves. And there should be some of that, right? We are not called to be like everyone else or to be with culture and running always in the same direction. But it doesn't mean you have to isolate yourself because we are called to be a people of community. It does mean that you should be adhering to the principles, the precepts of the Lord. All right. And so we see again that God spoke a word. I just want to say that manifestation is not bad. We see that it's biblical. He manifested something. He spoke something into being. The problem is with New Age, we separate that. We take God out of that. God did it first, and you'll see later on, as being people who are created in His image, we are also able to do that as well. Anyway, so there was evening and morning one day. In Jewish thought, evening is a time of preparation, whereas more in American culture, we come home and we're done. We make dinner and it's time to rest. But there is something to be said that evening is in preparation for the daytime. It makes me think of Ecclesiastes, I believe, like 11, which is something about like sow your seed in the morning and in the evening do not withhold your hand. There is this idea that there are things that are done in the day and there's work that still is done at night. And sometimes we get so comfortable with wanting to relax, we don't actually sow our evening seeds. Just a thought, I'm working on it. So verse 6, then God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the water. Let it be for separating water from water. So God made the expanse, and it separated the water that was below the expanse from the water that was over the expanse. And it happened so. God called the expanse sky. So there was evening and there was morning, second day. So here we see God distinguishing. We see that there's light and dark already, right? He's calling things into order. There's chaos and waste. So nothing is useful at this point, and there's no order. And so when God steps in, God brings order, which, if you are like myself, that can feel really uncomfortable because you like going by your feelings and seeing how you feel about things. No, you need a schedule, sis. You need organization. You need a plan. All right. Um, then Verse 9, then God said, let the water below the sky be gathered into one place. Let the dry ground appear. And it happened so. God called the dry ground land, and the collection of the water he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the land sprout grass, green plants, yielding seed, fruit trees, making fruit, each according to its species, with seed in it upon the land. And it happened so. The land brought forth grass, green plants, yielding seed, each according to its species, and trees making fruit with the seed in it, each according to its species. And God saw that it was good. And then there was evening and there was morning, third day. So here we see that God creates some sort of order. He starts distinguishing, so there can be light and darkness. He makes basically a time frame, right? Then we see that God starts to make a place. He separates these waters. So now we have water that's above the sky, we have water and land. So he starts to prepare a place. Let's keep going. Verse 14, then God said, let lights in the expanse of the sky be for separating the day from the night. They will be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So here we go that he's really creating more time. In the beginning, there's light and dark, but now he's starting to make the stars and the sun and the moon. And we see here also that they are for signs and for seasons. So the Farmer's Almanac, all of that makes sense. That's within God. Even astrology is a beautiful thing because where the stars were when you were born, it matters. Um, and that we shouldn't be reading our horoscope before we read the Bible. We shouldn't plan our day around our sign rather than asking God what He really says about me. In any case, verse 15, there will be lights in the expanse of the sky to shine upon the land. And it happened so. So whatever God is saying, it happens the way He says it. This is why we need to know the Word of God. Then God made the two great lights, the greater light for dominion over the day, and the lesser light as well as the stars for dominion over the night. God set them in the expanse of the sky to shine on the land and to have dominion over the land, over the day and over the night, and to separate the lightness from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. Now we hear that there's something having dominion, and that's these lights, the sun and the moon, start to have dominion over what's going on. They're on their consistent pace, which means when the sun goes down, it's dark. When the moon comes up, there's a little bit of light, but there's differences. And the sun isn't greater per se than the moon. It does say lesser, and there's more than times where you'll see one thing and another. You have a binary kind of a situation here, A and B. And so you see the sun and the moon, lightness, darkness. We have the waters above the expanse, the waters below the expanse. And also note that back when it said with everything yielding fruit, everything was according to its species. So God created all of these things. He also created them to be self fulfilling. So like once that seed is done, you can plant that seed. There's more coming. He gave things seeds for a reason. I find that very interesting. So verse 20, then God said, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, let flying creatures fly above the land across the expanse of the sky. Then God created the large sea creatures and every living creature that crawls, with which the water swarms, according to their species. According to their species. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them by saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the water and the seas, let the flying creatures multiply on the land." So there was evening and day. So there was evening and there was morning, a fifth day. So here we go. So there now we see that the first, the sun and the moon had dominion. Now we see that the creatures are being created and they're meant to have dominion over their spaces. Let's continue reading. Verse 24. Then God said, "Let the land bring forth living creatures according to their species, livestock, crawling creatures, and wild animals according to their species." And it happened so. God made the wild animals according to their species, the livestock according to their species, and everything that crawls on the ground, each according to its species. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Who is he talking to? He's sure as not heck not talking to the animals. He's talking to the triune God. So this is in chapter 1, verse 26. We see evidence of a triune God. Now, we don't know this word in the beginning, but there's more dimensions, more facets of the Lord because he's speaking and conferring with himself. Let us, there's community in there. Let us make man in our image, in our likeness. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the flying creatures of the sky, over the livestock, over the whole earth, and over every crawling creature that crawls on the land. God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the land, and conquer it. Rule over the fish of the sea, the flying creatures of the sky, and over every animal that crawls over the land." Then God said, I have just given you every plant yielding seed on the surface of the whole land, and every tree which has fruit of tree yielding seed. They are to be food for you. Also for every wild animal, every flying creature of the sky, and every creature that crawls on the land, which has life, every green plant is to be food. And it happened so. So God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. So there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. That's the end of chapter 1. Boom, we've done it. Now we see that there are all these things. God is on a creation spree for 6 days, making beautiful things, creating places before he creates people, well, before he creates animals to inhabit the space. He thinks of food, he thinks of a system that is reproducing. Then he gives dominion to certain animals over certain areas. And then he gives the utmost dominion of the earth to humankind. He says the same thing he did to the animals: be fruitful, multiply, fill the land, or fill their space. But then with humankind, he writes, and conquer it, meaning that there's an order, meaning that the person who's been set in the middle of the garden, the man and the woman, the humankind that he's created, is like a governor of this land. And you'll see that, and they are to take dominion over this area, which is what we've been entrusted with. Um, and we'll obviously get deeper in that, but I love that. And all of that happened in 6 days. Isn't that pretty crazy? And God set up food systems, sources, light, like nothing was left for the people to do. It was complete. So when God steps into a situation, what he does is complete. He doesn't leave loose ends. Now, for us, we might want something really tied up. We might want to know the entire extent of things, but we should know and walk away that God creates. And since we are made in his image, we are meant to create. God gave us a blessing to be fruitful. And as we think about that in what we do and how we are and how we help, we should be bearing fruit of the Spirit. God calls us to multiply. And so we can think of that, yes, as having children, but also that means raising children. And so that means also multiplying our disciple making. So if you're someone who doesn't have children, that doesn't mean that you're not functioning in your capacity. Who are you discipling? Who are you helping? Because we're made to be in community. Fill the land by multiplication, fill the land by sustaining it, by bringing things for by being healthy, for continuing to grow and steward what God has given us, and then conquer it. We'll see soon that when that slithery snake comes over, we could have conquered that thing, right? We have the capacity to do that. Um, and capacity, our capacity to do that is not necessarily always by force, but sometimes it is often with love, and it's in community and in building relationship. And if we see nothing else here in chapter one, we can see the beginning of relationship, the creator to the creation, and there's a relationship there, and there's a certain level of responsibility, accountability, stewardship that is given in chapter one. It's juicy, y'all. I don't know. I love Genesis. So I hope that you continue to join me and that you put in any comments that you would have and that you share. Yeah. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.